These are three socially acute stories about racial inequality and injustice from Reddit. Story number 1.
I always thought I lived the right way. I work hard, pay my taxes, stay out of trouble. I live in the suburbs, in a house I saved up for over 10 years. White picket fence and all. I have a daughter, Lila. She's 15. Smart, compassionate, and she's got the most observant eyes I've ever seen. After her mother, Marissa, passed away, Lila became my whole world. I raised her alone. Never asked for help. Never complained. She's the reason I keep going. Yesterday, we went to the mall to pick out a birthday gift for our neighbor, Miss Carol, an elderly woman who used to watch Lila when I worked late. Lila picked out a modest pair of silver earrings. We found them at a small jewelry store, but I didn't go in with her. I wanted to give her space to choose. So I stood outside, just checking the news on my phone. About 7 minutes passed. I noticed someone staring. I looked up. 2 white saleswomen were whispering to each other behind the glass, both glancing in my direction. I looked away, telling myself not to jump to conclusions. But a minute later, one of them walked out and went straight to mall security. What had I done? I stood there. Just stood. Waiting. I considered going inside, but before I could move, 2 police officers turned the corner. One was Latino, maybe late 20s. The other, white, mid-40s, with a square jaw and cold eyes. They approached me fast. No questions. No hesitation. "Show me your ID," the older one said. I asked, "What's going on?" "We got a report," he said. "You match the description of someone who stole merchandise from this store." Match the description. That phrase is burned into my memory. I'm black. I was standing near a store. That's all it took. I calmly told them I hadn't stolen anything, that I was just waiting for my daughter. I offered to go inside and call her over, but they were already circling me. One of them pulled out handcuffs. On the ground, the white cop ordered, "Wait." I raised my hands. "My daughter's right inside. This is a misunderstanding." He didn't listen. He grabbed my shoulder and forced me face first onto the pavement. My phone clattered onto the sidewalk. People began to watch. Some filmed. I heard someone laugh. Others whispered, "Here we go again." That's when Lila ran out of the store. "Dad, what are you doing?" "Let him go," she screamed. She was holding a small jewelry box and the receipt. She tried to get closer, but the younger cop held her back. I lay there motionless. I didn't want to give them a reason to escalate. A few minutes later, after some quiet chatter on the radio, they uncuffed me. The white cop muttered, "Wrong guy. You're free to go." "Wrong guy." That's all he said. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch something. But I saw my daughter's face. She was shaking. Tears filled her eyes. We drove home in silence. Then she whispered, "Why did they do that to you, Dad?" And I didn't know how to explain to a 15-year-old girl that sometimes the only reason you're treated like a criminal is because of the color of your skin. The next day, I filed a formal complaint. I hired a lawyer. We requested the security footage from the store. The videos showed exactly what happened. I stood still. Didn't talk to anyone. Didn't move much. Just stood. We found out the name of the woman who made the report. Linda M., 28 years old. In her official statement, she said I was acting suspiciously and might have stolen something, even though she admitted she didn't see me touch a single thing. I wanted to ask her why. But then something happened that I didn't expect. A week later, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a flash drive. The footage was from a hidden body cam, probably worn by a fellow employee. It showed Linda talking to another worker in the back room. He was just standing there for like 10 minutes. Barely moved. Kinda weird. You called the cops because of that? Yeah. I mean, you never know. Maybe he had bad intentions. Anyway, they already cuffed him. It was kind of funny, honestly. His face. He was just a dad, Linda. Or a thief. You never know with them. With them. That's what she said. I gave the footage to my lawyer. We pushed for an internal investigation. A few weeks later, Linda was fired. Then I got a letter from her. Handwritten. No apology. No remorse. Just one sentence. "Hope you're satisfied." But this wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting someone fired. It wasn't even about the lawsuit, which, by the way, we won. It was about what happened the day after. When Lila refused to go to school. She said she was afraid. Not for herself, for me. She was scared that next time I wouldn't come home. Since then, I've been speaking at schools, community centers, anywhere I'm invited. I share my story. I look into the eyes of students, black, white, Latino, Asian, and I tell them, this isn't about politics. This is about dignity. About being able to stand outside a store without ending up face down on the pavement. Because that day, I lost something, but I gained something else. A voice. And I'm not giving it back.
Story number 2.
I met Derek in college. He was one of those people whose kindness almost came off as naive at first. Always helping, always smiling. He was also one of the few black students in our English literature program. His dream was to become a teacher. Not because of the steady paycheck. Not because of summer breaks. But because he wanted to be the adult he never had growing up, someone who sees you, supports you, and stands up for you. After graduation, we went our separate ways, but we stayed in touch. I started working at a law firm. He landed a job teaching English at a middle school in a small southern town. Let's call it Lakeford. Lakeford wasn't exactly welcoming. Not to outsiders. Not to change. But Derek believed he could make a difference. He told me, if I can reach even one kid, that's a win. 6 months in, people started calling him controversial. Not officially, of course. It started with the books he assigned. He had students reading Ta-Nehisi Coates, James Baldwin. Instead of Shakespeare, he introduced poems about identity and race. Some parents were outraged. One wrote in a PTA group, "Why are my kids reading books about being victims? Why aren't they learning to love their country?" Then came the situation with a student, Emily. 14 years old. Quiet. Bullied for her weight, and for hanging out with black kids. One day she stayed after class to talk. She told Derek another student had threatened her. Begged him not to say anything. He listened. But the next morning, he reported it to the administration. I couldn't stay silent, he told them. It wasn't safe. 2 days later, the parents of that student filed a complaint. They accused Derek of being inappropriate, pushing a political agenda, and even making their son feel guilty for being white. That's when the clock started ticking. He called me a week later. Internal investigation was already underway. I drove down to see him. We sat in his living room. He looked exhausted, but calm. They don't want the truth, he said. They want quiet. I offered to help, legally. He declined. If I start defending myself like I'm guilty, then they've already won. A month later, they fired him. Official reason: violation of professional conduct with students. The very next day, the local news ran a headline. Teacher fired after parents complain about radical views and inappropriate pressure on students. They showed a photo of him walking out of the school, holding a cardboard box. The Facebook comments were, "Vile. Good riddance to that woke warrior. This is why you don't hire these people. Keep that crap away from our kids." Months passed. I kept checking in. He said he was trying to get hired elsewhere. 5 schools rejected him. One principal outright said, "Sorry, our community's conservative." He took odd jobs. Taught online classes. But slowly started withdrawing. Then, he stopped answering calls altogether. When I finally visited, he was living in a trailer outside town. Laptop broken. Mailbox overflowing with overdue bills. He looked at me and said, "I just wanted to help. And now I can't even pour coffee without wondering if someone recognizes me." Then something happened. Emily, the girl who started it all, posted a video on TikTok. She told her side of the story. How Derek was the only adult who noticed. How he didn't betray her, he protected her. The post blew up. Tens of thousands of views. Comments of support. Then a local journalist picked it up. The same paper that ran the hit piece. They wrote a new one. Fired teacher was only one who helped bullied student, says teen. Then a civil rights group got involved. Helped him sue the school. He won a settlement, had his record cleared, and was offered a new job. But he turned it down. He told me, "I don't want to walk into a classroom where compassion is considered a threat." Today, Derek hosts a podcast called Inside the Classroom Walls. He shares stories from teachers, students, and parents. He doesn't scream. He doesn't accuse. He tells the truth, one story at a time. They took his dream. But they didn't take his voice.
Story number 3.
My name is Danielle Foster. I'm 47. I've been a house cleaner most of my adult life. It's not glamorous. Nobody dreams of scrubbing someone else's toilet at 6 in the morning. But it was steady. It put food on my table, clothes on my daughter's back, and kept a roof over our heads when everything else in life felt like it could collapse at any second. I was 35 when I first walked through the Watsons' front door. They were looking for someone reliable, and I needed something that paid on time. Win-win. Emma Watson met me at the door with that tight, practiced smile that rich women wear like jewelry. Polite. Not warm. Just polished. Her husband Greg didn't come downstairs. He was on a conference call, she said. The house was huge, 5 bedrooms, white marble kitchen, big glass staircase. I remember thinking how quiet it was. Too clean. Like no one actually lived there. But they did. Especially their daughter, Sadie. She was 10 at the time. A sweet, gangly girl with braces and way too much curiosity. She followed me around that first day, asking questions I wasn't sure how to answer. Why are you brown? Do you have kids? Do you like cleaning up after people? I told her I had a daughter her age. Her name was Tiana. And no, I didn't like cleaning, but I was good at it. And that matters. She nodded like she understood. Weeks turned into months. Then years. Every Monday and Thursday I was there. I learned the rhythm of their lives. The almond milk Greg liked. The way Emma refolded the towels I folded, not because they weren't clean, but because they weren't hotel style. The way Sadie started leaving little notes for me in her room. Thank you, Miss Danielle. You always make my bed look like magic. Today was hard at school. Wish I could talk to you. I never replied on paper. But I started asking her how school was. I stayed a few minutes longer in her room to talk. She told me things she probably didn't even tell her mom. About her anxiety. About the boy who pushed her in gym class. About how lonely she felt in a house full of beautiful silence. I always listened. When my own daughter, Tiana, was hit by a car at 13, it was the Watsons who sent flowers. Emma even handed me an envelope with $500 in cash and said, "Don't mention it." I cried in the laundry room after she left. That money helped pay the hospital bill. Helped me breathe. I stayed late one night when Greg had a seizure and Emma panicked. I held his hand until the paramedics came. Emma never said thank you. But the next morning there was a pastry box on the counter. Just one word written on it. Danielle. That was her way, I guess. 12 years. I watched that little girl grow up. I watched Emma's hair go gray at the temples. I watched Greg get quieter, angrier. I knew when he started cheating. I knew what names showed up on the hotel receipts. I knew the bottle of wine he kept in the garage and the way his jaw clenched when Sadie mentioned her queer best friend. But I wasn't there to judge. I was there to clean. And apparently to be invisible. It was a Monday when everything fell apart. I remember it was raining. The door was cracked open when I arrived, like usual. I stepped inside, called out, "It's me, Danielle," and began my routine. Upstairs, Sadie's room was exactly how she left it, makeup scattered, a book open on her bed. I started vacuuming the hallway when I heard the front door slam. Greg. His face was red. His shirt wrinkled like he'd slept in it. "What the hell are you doing here?" he shouted. I froze. "Cleaning. It's Monday. Same as always." He glared. "You broken?" I laughed. A small, confused, automatic laugh. "No, sir. The door." "Shut your mouth," he snapped, pulling out his phone. "Don't move." 2 officers arrived within minutes. Guns drawn. Let me say that again. Guns. Drawn. For a 47-year-old woman holding a bottle of Windex. They pushed me against the wall. Cuffed me. I heard one whisper to the other. "Greg Watson says she threatened him." Threatened him? I hadn't even raised my voice. I was still in handcuffs when Emma arrived. She stood in the doorway, pale and silent. "Ma'am," the officer asked, "do you know this woman?" Emma's mouth opened. Closed. Then, "I think we hired her once. A long time ago." That hesitation, that sentence, cut deeper than the cuffs. They let me go 3 hours later. Misunderstanding. No charges. But I was never the same. I couldn't sleep that night. I couldn't eat for days. My daughter held me as I shook, saying, "Mom, why would they do that to you?" I didn't have an answer. Until a letter came. Handwritten. No return address. It read, "Emma didn't know Greg would call the cops. She's scared. You know too much. About the money. The affairs. He says you're dangerous now. Please leave town." I went quiet for a while. I stopped working. Stopped answering calls. But then, Sadie reached out. She found me through Tiana's Instagram. She sent me a message that said, "I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Please talk to me." We met at a cafe. She was 22 now. A college student. She cried when she saw me. "I loved you more than I ever loved my mom," she said. "You were the only adult who listened, who didn't pretend I was invisible." She offered to testify, to go public. And suddenly I wasn't just a cleaner anymore. I was a name, person, a woman who'd been hurt, and who wasn't going to stay silent. We filed a civil suit. My lawyer said it would be hard. Until Sadie gave us the recordings, voicemails Greg left on the house line, threatening her, begging Emma to shut Danielle up. The settlement was quiet, NDA and all. But it was enough. I used the money to start a cleaning service. My own. I hire women like me. Women who are always the last to be thanked and the first to be feared. We don't just clean. We train. We support. We rise. People like the Watsons still exist everywhere. Polite racism wrapped in good manners. Smiles that vanish the second you're no longer convenient. But I remember who I am now. I am not their maid. I am not their silence. I am the woman who survived them. And I'm not invisible anymore.